Open source means innovation, invention. It means the ability to collaborate with people from all around the world to build better software.
Open source is super important because it brings together collaboration from universities, private companies and the community in order to build something that's just a little bit greater than anyone could do on themselves.
It has saved major corporations countless billions in terms of they no longer need to build foundational pieces of software themselves. We can consume open source cryptographic libraries, web frameworks, security frameworks and tools, build infrastructure and tooling. It gives us a great unifying leg up in order to advance humanity forward at a faster pace.
Our entire world relies on open source. Most of our economies right now function primarily on digital assets. So in order to be able to participate very basically in an economy, you have to enable engineers to be able to work in the domains which are required. If they don't understand open source, they won't be able to have the jobs that you have sitting in your economy.
It's also about the community, about doing your development in the open, about sharing what you're working on and letting other people collaborate with you in a really open and collaborative manner.
Contributing to open source has absolutely impacted my career. You can direct your career in the ways that you want to, not by going and trying to find specific jobs, but quite literally finding what it is that you are so deeply passionate about that you would be doing that and you'd be spending your volunteer time on it.
A lot of people have gotten jobs as a result of their open source work. So people start to get involved in some of these projects, they start to contribute, they start to be known for those contributions that they're making.
The work that you do is always going to be publicly available. You will be known by the credibility and the merit of the lines of code that you produce or the contributions that you make to the communities that produce value.
So one of the things that we're trying to understand more is how we build a tech sector with the right skills. What we see with open source software is that we have international communities and those international communities engage and collaborate. So people in the UK who participate in open source software, whether that's through contribution of code or other contributions to a community, their participation allows them to engage in the global tech sector and to build a CV, to build a living CV through the likes of GitHub. And that CV is something that's visible to employers. Employers who use those packages, who use those services, who use those products, employers who will want to recruit. And those employers do not recruit based on location anymore. Today they recruit based on skill set. So it's more than possible that an individual sitting in a rural part of the UK will be employable in an international company based out of the Bay Area, based out of Asia, anywhere across the world because they have the skills.
What I will want to see, or what anyone will want to see out of hiring someone, is not necessarily the technical stack that you're even practicing right now. It's the fact that I know that you're practicing the most up-to-date language, the most up-to-date technical stack, and that I can reliably know that if I hire you now, you'll learn the new skills in 2 years. That's the kind of people that open source allows you to hire.
I think one of the really powerful things about open source is that people can get involved in projects and learn a lot of skills, be they technical, organisational, governance, design and documentation. There are lots of different skills. People can come into open source projects and build up expertise that then becomes suddenly really very valuable. I've seen this over and over again with people here in the UK.
I think about myself and my own journey. I was a boy born in Africa, and the ability to accelerate my learning entirely independently was reliant on open source. Right? And nowadays, I think that opportunity is even greater. You can interact directly and personally on Twitter with the people who are writing the stuff that you care about. You can ask questions. So I think the opportunity is even greater for people to just leapfrog 10 years worth of learning by exposing themselves to bleeding edge technology. I think there's a huge opportunity.
With State of Open Phase 3, what we look at is skills. And what we look at is how those skills are growing within the UK economy. So as we see an increasing tech sector in the UK, we see an increasing demand for skills that just don't exist. Those skills aren't just engineering, they're skills that are considered to be soft skills. So what the UK does brilliantly is innovate. But when we innovate, our innovation tends to lift and shift so that product development, go-to-market strategy, all the soft skills, the add-ons end up in the Bay Area. They end up in the Bay Area because our companies either sell out to the US quite early stage, float on the US market, or take US investment. And often that means that the skill sets that are utilised come from the Bay Area. One of the problems is that we see particular skill sets very evolved in the Bay Area, but not so much across the rest of the world.
I think there's only value in engaging in open source for the whole tech sector. I think the way not only technology is changing, but humans are changing. If we even look at when I was growing up, a salesperson could tell you to buy some product and you'd buy it or you'd utilize it. We're now moving to show me how it adds value. And open source technology, because of the way the communities are built around it, we get to play and use things that actually make sense and work for us. And I think if organizations, as well as sort of communities like the UK, don't get involved in open source, you start to actually build a bridge between you and those communities that actually outdates you very, very quickly. AI, we talk about it, only came out a couple months ago. Without the community, no one would have learned anything yet, because if we're waiting for something to be published that went into an educational institute to then learn about it, to then utilize it, we're looking at how many years before something happens? And we can only do that with open source technology.
Open source is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It's definitely a community movement, it's definitely a software methodology, but it's also about bringing people together and allowing them to build better innovation through collaboration.